Aloha, I'm Ash. Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the concept of death and building a close relationship with death while we're still alive. Death is, in a lot of ways, our greatest teacher and our greatest liberator. And most of us don't contemplate the concept of death until either one, we lose somebody who's really close to us, or two, we're on the verge of facing death ourselves. And at that time, or during those times, we tend to contemplate death a lot more than we would during our normal lives. But hopefully, by the time you're finished watching this video, you will start to consider the concept of death and building a closer relationship with the concept of death in your normal lives starting now, so that you can learn the beautiful lessons that death has to offer us while still living. This is a bit of an interesting topic, and I almost feel a little bit uncomfortable making it, because if you have experienced losing somebody close to you, or maybe you're facing, death yourself right now, these concepts might be not useful at the present time unless you've maybe opened yourself up to looking for the gifts, looking for the gems that death has to offer. So in a lot of Eastern teachings, especially yoga and Buddhism, death is talked about often and contemplated often, and even personified as a god in the yoga tradition, in the Upanishads, one of the ancient yoga texts. One of the most famous stories that's told in the parables of the Upanishads is about the god of death and the Katha Upanishad, and a young boy meeting the god of death and learning all of the lessons that the god of death has to teach us. And in yoga, we lay in Savasana at the very end of our yoga practice. We lay on the floor, close the eyes, and become very still. And the word Savasana literally translates to corpse pose. And we're practicing, or we're supposed to be practicing death. And how weird would you feel if you were in a public yoga class and your teacher said, "Okay, class is over, now lie down on your back and let's all practice dying." But essentially, that is what we're to be doing when we finish the asana and the meditation and the pranayama and we lay down on the floor. And in Buddhism, a common practice is to meditate on death, to practice, in a sense, dying, letting go of this body, everything you know, all of the people you know. And some practices even go as extreme as go and meditate in a cemetery, be around death and immerse yourself in it. So why is this so prevalent in Eastern philosophy? There must be something to it. And for me, I really became interested in death because of Eastern philosophies, and studying the different teachings that death has to offer really brought a lot of liberation in my life and relieved not only the fear of dying and losing the ones I loved, but also enriched my life so much. So death is such a beautiful thing to contemplate while living, and I'll explain why that is, why it's not something we should ignore or fear or deny or not talk about. What's really interesting for me in my personal relationship with my husband, Matthew, is that he can testify to this, that a common conversation that happens when he leaves the house, or we're separated for any moment of time, or sometimes just spontaneously, like while we're laying together in bed, going to sleep, I'll bring to his attention how I'm anticipating him dying, and I want him to know how much I love him and how beautiful he is to me, how grateful I am to see his face for this one last time, or hug him for this one last time, or smell him. And in those moments of clarity, in those moments of knowing that he is temporary, that he is going to die, I have these existential moments of supreme present awareness where I am taking in every single detail, like a screenshot, like a photograph, like a movie reel of everything in that moment, and I'm banking it, you know. I'm so present because I'm aware that it can end. And in the beginning of this, of him being with me, he thought it was a little odd. He'd be like, why are you always thinking I'm gonna die? Like, I'm not gonna die. You're kind of freaking me out. Like, every time I leave, I don't want you to think I'm gonna die. This is really morbid. And he even confused my feelings or deep, close relationship with death as a fear of death, and actually came to understand recently what it really is, which is just gratitude for this temporal life, because I am so aware of death. And the reason why this is important is because a lot of the, I don't know what the word for this is, but the reason why we are not so present in our lives, or we are not so grateful for the experience to be in a body and the opportunity to be on earth even, right? Like, do you remember your pre-existence? Do you remember where you were before you were in this body? Do you remember choosing to come to earth and choosing your parents? Or do you have any idea how you got here? We don't. It's such a gift. We essentially don't remember where we were before here. But now that we were here and we look around, it's the complete Garden of Eden. It's like, you know, the movie Avatar, right? Like, where his consciousness goes into a body on Pandora, and it's like the most beautiful planet ever. And he sees his hands, and he was handicapped before he went into his avatar body. And he's so present with the beauty, right? And that's because he knows that he's borrowing the body, and that he is a visitor on the planet Pandora. And essentially, we are that right now. Our consciousness is embodying a vessel, and we can look at our hands and be in just as awe that we have the ability to move this avatar consciously and walk on this amazing, beautiful planet that we didn't create. We just get to enjoy it and just take it all in. But we don't do that. We don't act so present. We don't feel so grateful. Why aren't we walking around every day just, oh, wow. How is that possible? Because it's a complete miracle that I am even sitting here talking to you through the internet, that you are doing whatever you're doing right now, and all of it is just a complete miracle, right? But we don't see it. And that is because we're not close to death. Because if we truly understood the temporal nature, the fragile nature of this life, we would feel that way. But because we have numbed ourselves to the fact that we're going to die, and that everybody we know is going to die, and that this life is impermanent, we have numbed ourselves to that. We don't want to think about it. We want to think it's going to last forever. And essentially, you know, life is eternal, but this is another video for another time. This is impermanent, and this moment is fleeting. It's always now, it's always new, it's always this moment's now and that moment's already gone. And if we were so present with it because we knew it was going to end, we'd be so grateful. It's actually really interesting because we really don't know anything, right? We don't know how we got here, but the only thing that we know is that we will inevitably die. And that everybody we know is going to die. Those are like the only things we know for certain about being a human. We don't have a universal agreement on who God is or what God is. We don't have a universal agreement on what the afterlife is or what the pre-existence before this was. We don't have a universal agreement on pretty much anything except the concept that if you were born, you will die. So why isn't it contemplated more often? Why aren't we building a relationship with death as a reality? And that is because we are afraid. We are afraid to, we're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of where we're gonna be after we're not in this body. We are attached to all of the things in this life. The body that we're in, the people that we love, this planet. We're attached to this planet. We don't want to leave this planet. We're attached to things that we don't want to think about that could be taken away from us. So we just push it in the corner and say it's never going to happen, but it is. It is going to happen. We will leave this body and this earth and everybody we love. And if we thought about that more often, instead of feeling entitled and like it's a tragedy when somebody we love is taken from us, or something, a material object, like maybe a home is destroyed or taken from us, or whatever it is that is impermanent, because essentially everything is, instead of feeling like it was a tragedy that it's gone, because the only reason that it feels like a tragedy is because we think it should have never happened, that we should have things and the people we love forever. But if we turn the other perspective and we firmly accept and acknowledge that everything we love is only borrowed, and there will be a time where we will need to say goodbye to it, we will experience the present moment that we have with that person, experience, or thing with so much joy and bliss and gratitude. So much love we will experience because it has an expiration date. And then when the moment comes that we do have to say goodbye, we are so prepared. And it's not a tragedy. It is a celebration and a gratitude that we even had the opportunity, to know that person, to spend time with that person, to live on this planet, to have the experience we had that is now over. Thank you for the opportunity. It was beautiful. And I was present throughout all of it. So much gratitude, so much thanks. That's what death can do for us if we build a healthy relationship with death. And it's not that you won't feel sad. That's a normal emotion. But the sadness is interwoven with joy, with gratitude, with celebration, it's like this bittersweetness. And think about it, really. Think about if you've ever thought about this is going to end, your life is going to end, or think about all the people you love, like at some point they're going to leave, and it might be unexpected. It might come at a time that you weren't prepared for, right? So what can we do to build a healthier relationship with death, to liberate ourselves from the fear, the attachment, The attachment comes from thinking we're never gonna lose it. Just accept this, that we are. And how can we learn from death to be more present and grateful in our lives right now? The beautiful teaching of death. How can we build a healthier relationship so that is the outcome instead of fear and denial? And that is to welcome the concept of death into your life now, to spend time getting to know death now and in each day as you move forward. I told Matthew I wanted to make he thought this was so morbid, but I told Matthew I wanted to make a death calendar. I wanted to make a calendar that, just like maybe like to the age 99, let's just say I do live to the age 99. I wanted to know how many days I had left on the planet, and then I wanted to count them down, and each day, pull it off and be like, okay, you're at 29,999 days left on Earth. You're at 29,998 days left on Earth. I wanted to be really aware of the limited time that I have here, right? And that wouldn't work because I could die before 99. Wouldn't be literal, but it would give me a ritual to acknowledge, hey, you're a visitor here, you're borrowing a body, the time is limited. And then if you knew that every morning when you woke up, how would you go about your day? It's like all these songs and all these poems about, live like you're dying, you gotta live like you're dying. And spend each day like it's your last. And it's like, do we really do that? And why does everybody say that when they're coming near on death? Why is that everybody's great message to us? It must be really important. So how do we, take that teaching in? And so that was just one of my ideas. But the more practical idea is to meditate on death, to practice dying. That's what, you learn when you start studying Buddhism and yoga and Hinduism, is to build a healthy relationship through death by practicing dying, by going into meditation practice and having acceptance that this body is going to become decrepit and wither away into the soil, to see your skeleton, to see yourself age, to see yourself go into a tomb or a grave, to allow the soul to be liberated from the body so that you know that you're not the body. Watch the soul leave the body. To say goodbye to everybody that you love. The meditation that I would often use in a yoga class when I was teaching yoga public classes is to have everybody visualize coming out onto a stage at the end of their lives, right? With the big red curtains, and looking out into the crowd and seeing all the different actors in your story, your mom, your dad, your worst enemy, your best friend, people that challenged you and people that supported you, and look out at all the faces, all the characters in your story, and they'd all be clapping, and they'd all be smiling and laughing, and you would smile and laugh, knowing it was all a play, it was all a show. And now it's over, and you would feel grateful for every single person who participated in your story, in your movie, in your play. Even the bad, just as much as the good. You would feel so much great gratitude. So this is just, one way you can start to practice accepting death. And something else this will do for you is if you're somebody who is afraid to live, someone who's afraid to get on an airplane because it might crash, or someone who's afraid to go into a big public space because there might be a terrorist attack, or all this stuff we see on the news nowadays, all these terrible things with shootings. If you're somebody who has become so traumatized by or a hurricane might come, right? somebody who's been so traumatized and is afraid to live, if these types of fears stop you from enjoying and living your life and doing beautiful things and traveling or moving or doing, anything, this type of meditation will help liberate you from that, because you will not, I don't want to say expect it, because these types of things are terrible, but I do believe we can live in a world that doesn't have these types of violent human to human acts of hate. But in a sense, you will come to acceptance that at some point you will inevitably leave this body, whether it's traumatic or whether you fall asleep at old age in your bed and die. The point is you will not be afraid to die, because you will have come to accept that you're going to. And that acceptance will allow you to live more freely, because the ultimate root of all of those fears is the fear of dying, right? And this will liberate you in a lot of ways. So the way that you go into meditation and practice, the meditation of death, is to really do the normal meditation, and then to allow your soul to leave, essentially, to thank everybody, to thank your higher power for this experience, and to practice letting go of the body, getting so still, not having any more control over the muscles, and just complete surrender in your meditation in Savasana. And practice leaving, practice letting go of this world. I hope this makes sense. I'm probably going to receive some very interesting comments, hopefully none violent or angry. But like I said, this is quite controversial, but this has been talked about, for centuries, to build a healthier relationship with death. And I tell you that there will be less suffering if you start to contemplate death while you're still living. Die before you're actually dead. And the world will become brighter. You will feel more fully. You will see more clearly. You will know truly what gratitude feels like. And death will become your greatest teacher. Thanks for listening, and let me know what you think. Namaste.